A Wednesday evening in Dalston, North London, May 29, 2024. Families finishing dinner along Kingsland High Street. Couples grabbing late-night kebabs. A 9-year-old girl from Birmingham choosing between ice cream flavors at Evin Restaurant. 9:20 p.m. A stolen Ducati monster tears through the dusk, engine roaring. The bike screeches to a stop outside the restaurant. 6 gunshots. 2 heartbeats. Chaos. 3 men at an outdoor table collapse, hit in the back, the thigh, the leg. Plates shatter. Pedestrians dive into doorways. Screams cut through the warm May air. Inside the restaurant, the little girl crumples in her parents' arms. A stray bullet, fired through the window, lodged in her brain. Blood pools on the floor as her father's cries join the pandemonium outside. The gunman twists the throttle. The Ducati disappears into London traffic, swallowed by the city in seconds. To witnesses, it looked like a professional hit. Clean, fast, brutal. 3 gang targets struck in a decades-old feud. A stolen motorcycle, a vanishing shooter, vehicles that would soon be burnt to ash. The man who orchestrated it all believed he'd thought of everything. He called himself a strategist, a mastermind, a man who modeled himself on Omar Little from The Wire, someone who stayed 3 steps ahead, who never got caught. But in 2024 London, even the most meticulous plan leaves a trail. This is the story of how digital evidence, courtroom cross-examination, and one catastrophic miscalculation brought Evin Riley to justice.
Welcome to UK True Crime Files.
If you're new to UK True Crime Files, we focus on cases like this, detail-driven, legally careful, and centered on the facts. A quick subscribe means you'll never miss one. To understand what happened outside Evin Restaurant that night, you need to understand the war that led there. For over 20 years, 2 Turkish organised crime groups had battled for control of North London's heroin trade. The Tottenham Turks and the Hackney Turks, also known as the Bombasilar. 20 years, more than 20 killings, ambushes, retaliatory shootings, funerals that became recruitment drives for the next generation of soldiers. For residents of Dalston, the toll was impossible to ignore. Empty chairs at family tables, names whispered in fear across postcode boundaries, streets where people knew, certain corners, certain times, you kept your head down. Kingsland High Street sits in the heart of this battleground. By day, it's bustling. Shops, cafes, the rhythm of ordinary London life. But underneath that normality, a darker current runs. Evin Restaurant is a Turkish gem. Families come for the food, couples for late-night meals, children for dessert. But it's also known as a place where members of the Hackney Turks gather. On the evening of May 29th, 3 men sat smoking at an outdoor table. Mustafa Kiziltan, Kenan Idogdu, Nasser Ali. To anyone passing by, just diners enjoying the evening air. But to those in the know, they were targets, exposed, visible, vulnerable. A 4th man, Bertha Gunduz, had been sitting with them earlier, but left minutes before the attack, timing that may have saved his life. The feud between Tottenham and Hackney had claimed lives before, but it had never, until that night, put a bullet in the brain of a child. Remember, this feud had simmered for 20 years, but May 29, 2024 would be different. The men at that outdoor table had no idea they were being watched, and not just by rivals. The man watching those tables wasn't a member of the Tottenham Turks. He wasn't a foot soldier in the Hackney crew either. Evin Riley was a freelancer, 33 years old, born in Jamaica, arrived in North London at age 8. He bounced between neighbourhoods, dropped out of school at 15, cycled through legitimate jobs: electrician, IKEA delivery driver, railway worker, traffic manager. By April 2024, he'd launched Clearsdale Logistics. He dabbled in a clothing brand called Komodo Clothing. On paper, a small business owner trying to make it, but Riley's real work was in the streets. His criminal record began in 2008 with driving offences. In 2019, police found a knife in his car, a possession charge that went on his record. But those were the crimes he got caught for. Riley's actual CV was far more extensive. He stole cars to order. He raided cannabis grow houses, sometimes as the driver, sometimes as muscle. He targeted drug dealers, people who couldn't report the robberies to police. He'd travel as far as Leeds for jobs, selling stolen narcotics and dealing on the side. In court, Riley would later admit to committing 2 to 5 robberies a month. When the barrister asked why he had no convictions for robbery, Riley smiled. "I haven't been caught," he said, "and the dealers who could identify me, that would put my life in danger." Riley saw himself as something more than a common criminal. He modelled himself on Omar Little, the strategic stick-up artist from The Wire, a man who robbed drug dealers with precision, who planned every angle, who stayed ahead of everyone. Riley prided himself on being careful, hyper-vigilant, a thinker, not just a thug. He maintained multiple relationships across London. His partner, Natia Lamy, near Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, girlfriend Mercedes Wilson in Tulse Hill, regular hookups in Lewisham, and a friend named Cheryl Gutsmore in Edmonton, whose car he often drove. He compartmentalized his life, kept things separate, controlled the narrative. And when shadowy figures connected to the Tottenham Turks approached him with a job, Riley believed his skills made him untouchable. A man who claimed to be 3 steps ahead was about to leave a trail a mile wide. But who hired Riley? And what exactly was the job? Riley's job was simple, in theory. Orchestrate a hit on 3 Hackney Turks. Make it clean, make it disappear. He wasn't hired to pull the trigger, he was hired to make the chaos work. Days before May 29th, Riley sat at a bar directly across from Evin Restaurant. He ordered a pina colada, sipped it slowly, watched. But the drink wasn't about leisure. Riley was studying traffic patterns, timing the flow of Kingsland High Street, mapping escape routes, watching the comings and goings at Evan's outdoor tables, noting when the Hackney Turks arrived, how long they stayed, where they sat. The plan followed a classic gangland playbook, a stolen Ducati monster, built for speed, agile in London traffic. It would carry the gunman to the target. A second stolen vehicle, a Nissan Juke, waiting nearby for the handoff. Riley would drive it, pick up the shooter after the attack, disappear into North London's maze of streets. The gun would be dumped, the Ducati abandoned. Both vehicles, the bike and the Juke, would be torched. Fingerprints, DNA, any forensic trace, gone in flames. On paper, it was textbook, professional, the kind of operation Riley believed showcased his strategic mind. In the days leading up to the shooting, Riley drove past Evin Restaurant multiple times in the stolen Nissan Juke, circling, observing, refining the timing. He had accounted for CCTV, for witnesses, for physical evidence. What Riley didn't account for was the sheer volume of digital eyes watching him. But in 2024 London, even fire can't erase everything. Riley had planned for the attack. He'd planned for the escape. He'd even planned for the cleanup. What he hadn't planned for was a 9-year-old girl choosing ice cream at the wrong table, at the wrong moment. The Ducati monster's engine cut through the evening calm. The bike screamed to a stop outside Evin Restaurant. The gunman didn't hesitate. 6 shots, 2 heartbeats. Mustafa Kiziltan, hit in the back. Kenan Idogdu, struck in the thigh. Nasser Ali, bullet tearing into his leg. All 3 collapsed. Chaos erupted instantly. Plates crashed as diners dove beneath tables. Pedestrians scattered into doorways, flattening themselves against shop fronts. Screams tore through Kingsland High Street. The outdoor tables, now slick with blood. But the worst damage wasn't outside. Inside Evin Restaurant, a family from Kerala, India, visiting Birmingham relatives for the week, sat finishing their meal. Their 9-year-old daughter, giggling, debating flavors, scooping ice cream from a bowl. She had no connection to the Tottenham Turks, no connection to the Hackney Turks, no understanding of North London's postcode wars or 2 decades of heroin trade violence. She was simply a child, in a restaurant, on a Wednesday night. A stray bullet shattered the window. It struck her in the head. She collapsed into her parents' arms, blood pooling. Her mother's screams joining the chaos outside as her father clutched her, shouting for help. In that instant, a calculated assassination became a national tragedy. The gunman twisted the throttle. The Ducati roared away from Evin, weaving into traffic, vanishing into the arteries of East London within seconds. Behind him, 3 gang members bleeding on the pavement. A restaurant in lockdown. Witnesses sobbing, shaking, trying to piece together what just happened. And a little girl fighting for her life. Emergency services arrived within minutes. Paramedics worked frantically on Kingsland High Street. The girl was rushed to hospital, doctors racing against time as neurosurgeons prepared for emergency surgery. The 3 Hackney Turks survived their injuries. Painful but not life-threatening. But the child, a bullet lodged in her brain. Her survival uncertain. 3 gang members shot. 1 innocent child fighting for her life, and a motorcyclist vanishing into traffic. The gunman was gone, but he'd left something behind, something Riley never expected. The moment those gunshots rang out, the Metropolitan Police Specialist Crime Command went to work. Priority 1, the 9-year-old girl. As doctors in East London fought to stabilize her, detectives sealed off Kingsland High Street. Every shell casing bagged, every fragment of glass photographed, every CCTV frame downloaded. The headlines hit fast. Child shot in gang attack. Even officers hardened by years of gangland violence were shaken. Cases involving innocent children caught in crossfire. Rare, raw, urgent. Priority 2, the gunman. He'd come and gone in seconds. Stolen Ducati monster, cloned plates, no identifiable markings. But London doesn't sleep, and its eyes are everywhere. Traffic cameras, shop CCTV, private doorbell cameras, mobile phone footage from bystanders, even an off-duty officer's body-worn camera caught slivers of the escape route. Detectives began stitching those fragments together. The Ducati tore east from Kingsland High Street, weaving through back streets, then disappeared near Myrtle Road in Edmonton. But it didn't just vanish into thin air. CCTV showed a handoff. The motorcyclist pulled up beside a waiting Nissan Juke. Seconds later, the bike was abandoned and the Juke sped away. Standard procedure in a professional hit. 1 vehicle for the attack, another for the escape. And investigators believed Javon Riley was behind the wheel of that Juke. Within days, forensic teams found the burned-out shells of both vehicles. The Nissan Juke, torched in an alley in Edmonton. A stolen Mitsubishi Outlander, linked to Riley's network, set alight in East Barnet. To the crews running hits, fire is a magic eraser. But to forensic specialists, it's more like a smudged notebook. Difficult to read, but not impossible. Even in ash, clues linger. Melted VIN plates can be reconstructed. Fragments of GPS units retain data. Residue patterns hint at accelerants. The very fact that the cars were burned, evidence in itself, proof of a cleanup operation. Detectives dug deeper. They pulled cell site data, mapping phones that moved in lockstep with the Ducati's route. They combed ANPR hits, automatic number plate recognition cameras that log every vehicle passing fixed points across London. They cross-referenced stolen car reports against Riley's known movements. And then, the image that would haunt Riley in court. Days before the shooting, CCTV captured Riley sitting at a bar directly across from Evin Restaurant. In his hand, a piña colada. On his face, calm focus. He wasn't there for the drink. He was studying traffic flow, timing escape routes, watching the Hackney Turks table. Bit by bit, the pattern emerged. Riley wasn't just nearby, he was circling the restaurant, watching, planning, executing. This investigation relied on forensic detail most outlets gloss over. If that level of rigor matters to you, hit subscribe. 3 pieces of digital evidence would become the prosecution's backbone. Phone data placing Riley at the scene, CCTV showing his surveillance, and burnt vehicle forensics tying him to the cleanup. But Riley had a story ready, a carefully rehearsed explanation for everything investigators found. Would it hold up under cross-examination at the Old Bailey? By August 10, 2024, the Met had enough. Riley was arrested, charged with 4 counts of attempted murder. His case fast-tracked to trial. But the man who pulled the trigger, still a ghost, still at large. Summer 2025, the case reached the Old Bailey, England's most famous criminal court. Javon Riley faced 4 counts of attempted murder, 3 for the Hackney Turks shot outside Evin Restaurant, Mustafa Kiziltan, Kenan Idogdu, Nasser Ali. The 4th for the 9-year-old girl. Each count carried a potential life sentence. Riley's criminal record was read to the jury. Driving offences dating back to 2008. The 2019 knife possession charge, a blade found in his car. But no robbery convictions, despite what Riley himself would later admit on the stand. The Crown's case was led by James Mulholland KC, a veteran prosecutor known for dismantling carefully constructed lies. Riley took the stand, and under questioning from his own barrister, Mr. Smith, he made a startling admission. Yes, he stole cars to order. Yes, he committed robberies, 2 to 5 a month, targeting drug dealers who couldn't report him to police. Mr. Smith asked, "But you have no convictions for robbery. Have you ever been caught?" "No, I haven't," Riley replied. He added that any dealer identifying him would put his life in danger. He admitted raiding cannabis grow houses, sometimes as the driver, sometimes as muscle. Jobs that stretched as far as Leeds, selling the stolen drugs, dealing narcotics on the side. Riley portrayed himself as a master criminal, careful, hypervigilant, a strategic thinker who never allowed himself to be outmaneuvered. And then, he explained the night of May 29th. Riley's story was simple. He'd been hired by a third party, someone he refused to name, to act as a lookout and getaway driver for a smash-and-grab robbery. He claimed he'd been given no details about the plan or the target, just a photograph and instructions. The target, he said, was a drug deal, criminals meeting to exchange cocaine. How much cocaine? Riley initially said 50 to 60 kilos. The trial judge, the Recorder of London, Mark Lucraft KC, paused. He pointed out that 60 kilos is equivalent to roughly 120 bags of sugar. Riley corrected himself. Actually, about 2 kilos, worth around £200,000. James Mulholland KC leaned in. The prosecutor noted that Riley claimed he'd been offered £30,000 to £40,000 to act as the driver if the total value of the robbery was £200,000, and there were at least 2 other people involved. Riley's fee made no sense. Far too high for a supporting role. Riley had no answer. Mulholland pressed further. Riley admitted driving the stolen Nissan Duke past Evin Restaurant 4 times before the shooting. Admitted picking up the gunman after the attack, but claimed he had no knowledge in advance of any plan to kill anyone. The prosecutor asked Riley to describe the gunman. Riley said he was wearing a balaclava underneath his motorbike helmet. What was his skin color? Mulholland asked. I can't really say, Riley replied, claiming he feared recriminations. You can't identify him by saying he was white or black, the prosecutor said. So, was he white, black, Asian? I can't give too much information, Riley answered cagily. Later he would claim the gunman was mixed race. Mulholland asked what the gunman said when he got into the car. Riley claimed the man shouted, "Drive, drive, keep driving," that the robbery had gone wrong. There'd been a tussle. "Listen, it's crazy, keep driving." Riley insisted the gunman never mentioned a shooting, that he only found out people had been shot when he heard about it the following day. But the prosecutor said there clearly had been a plan, and Riley was the author of it. Riley admitted driving to Myrtle Road in Edmonton after the shooting, dumping the Duke, transferring, along with the gunman, to his own Range Rover, then driving to East Barnet, where a stolen Mitsubishi Outlander had been pre-positioned. The Nissan Duke was set on fire the next day. So was the Mitsubishi, Riley's Range Rover, intercepted by police before it could be shipped in a container to Barbados. Every move planned, every vehicle disposable. Then Mulholland introduced the bugged car recordings. Riley often drove a car belonging to Cheryl Gutsmore, a friend in Edmonton. Police had planted listening devices inside. On July 14, 2024, Riley could be heard talking out loud. He mentioned that a man had died, and this raised issues about him getting any money. 4 days earlier, Iset Eren, one of the leaders of the Tottenham Turks, had been shot dead in Moldova, in retaliation for the Dalston shooting. 5 days after the bugged conversation, Riley was recorded discussing someone called Kem. The prosecution claimed it was Kemal Eren, another Tottenham Turks leader believed to be living in Turkey. Mulholland told the jury, "These conversations clearly showed Riley was affiliated to the Tottenham Turks, that he knew all about the shooting." Riley's explanations were laughable. At one point, he claimed he'd been talking to himself. On another occasion, Mulholland asked about a recording where Riley said, "My man had a gun." The prosecution believed it was a reference to the gunman who'd shot at the Hackney Turks outside Evin on May 29th. But Riley said no. He'd actually been referring to the 10-year-old son of US rapper Lil Durk, who had been reported to have shot and injured his stepfather, Joshua Pippins. The shooting, on July 1st, had gone viral on social media shortly before Riley's conversation was recorded. The courtroom fell silent. Mulholland told him, "The reality is that you were weighing it up. You thought, let's see what evidence they have, and then you crafted your evidence around it. You decided to put it all on the third party." He later told the jury, "There is no third party. He was the third party." Riley had given a no-comment interview when first arrested. He'd delivered only the barest detail in his defense statement shortly before trial. Mulholland said Riley had been strategic. He'd waited to see the Crown's evidence, then built his story around the gaps. But there was one more twist. Cross-examination paused over the weekend of August 9th. When the trial resumed on Monday, August 11th, Riley suddenly had a stomach upset. He was unable to come to court from Belmarsh Prison. On August 12th, Riley presented a letter to Judge Lucraft. In it, he changed his story. This is highly unusual. The lawyers and the judge met in chambers to discuss the ramifications. When the trial resumed the next day, Judge Lucraft explained to the jury what had happened and gave Riley the opportunity to explain his new version of events. Riley now admitted the gunman had told him there'd been a shooting. He said when he heard about it, he got angry, told the man to get rid of the gun immediately. But Mulholland ripped Riley's new version apart. "You've been away over the weekend, and you're now giving a slightly different account. You didn't tell the jury this until now. Why?" "Because I've realized how serious it is," Riley replied. Mulholland said it was ridiculous. Riley had been charged with 3 attempted murders and conspiracy to cause grievous bodily harm. He'd been in custody for months, and the gravity of the situation had only just dawned on him. Halfway through cross-examination, the prosecutor put it to him that Riley had realized over the weekend his account didn't make sense. He'd looked at the CCTV footage, consulted with his legal team, and come up with a new version of events. "That's not correct," Riley replied. Mulholland also pointed out how unlikely it was that Riley, a drug dealer in the Tottenham area, had nothing to do with the Tottenham Turks. Riley had admitted his friend, Lyndon Miller, was a close friend of Kamal Eren, and Mulholland said this was the crucial nexus. In his closing speech, the prosecutor told the jury Riley had claimed he was a fall guy, a patsy, that he just happened to be in the middle of a professional hit, knowing nothing about it. "He would have been a hindrance," Mulholland said. "What are the chances that his good mate is connected to the Tottenham Turks, and by coincidence, he just happened to be doing a job for the Tottenham Turks?" Riley's womanizing was used against him. His multiple partners across London, Natia Lamy, Mercedes Wilson, contacts in Lewisham, Cheryl Gutsmore. The prosecutor framed this as proof Riley was a strategic liar, someone who compartmentalized deception, who controlled narratives, who knew exactly how to manipulate the truth. Riley had 2 stories, then 3. The jury heard them all. The jury deliberated for just over 6 hours. Guilty. 3 counts of attempted murder for Kiziltan, Idogdu and Ali. Guilty of grievous bodily harm with intent for the child. That charge had been downgraded from attempted murder. The plan Riley thought was perfect had earned him a life sentence. For the Hackney Turks who survived the shooting, justice of a kind. Mustafa Kiziltan, Kenan Idogdu, Nasser Ali, all 3 had recovered from their injuries. Painful wounds, but not life-altering. For the 9-year-old girl, the outcome was very different. But one question lingered. The gunman, the man who actually pulled the trigger, who fired 6 shots into a crowded street, who put a bullet in a child's brain, still at large. The Metropolitan Police issued a public appeal, a reward of up to £20,000 for information leading to the identification and arrest of the shooter. They described the operation as the work of a highly sophisticated, organised crime group. Language meant to signal, this wasn't just some loose street crew. This was a structured organisation, with reach, with history, with muscle. Riley, for his part, kept his mouth shut. He refused to name the gunman, refused to identify the third party who allegedly hired him. In prison, that silence may protect him. The Hackney Turks, he's already convicted, no threat to them now. The Tottenham Turks, as long as he doesn't name names, he's probably safe. The plan Riley thought was perfect earned him 34 years minimum. But the man who pulled the trigger, still out there, and the feud that ignited this violence, far from over. The 9-year-old girl, the one detail the Crown and the defence both handled with care, she survived. Against devastating odds, against a bullet lodged in her brain, against injuries that would have killed most adults, she survived. Emergency neurosurgery at an East London hospital, weeks in intensive care, months of rehabilitation. Her family, watching, praying, holding on to hope when medical professionals warned them to prepare for the worst. By the time Riley's trial concluded in September 2025, she had defied every prognosis. She walks, she talks, she laughs. Her cognitive function remarkably intact. Her physical recovery described by doctors as extraordinary. But the trauma, invisible scars that no surgery can repair. A child who went for ice cream on a Wednesday evening in Dalston and became a symbol of collateral damage in a 20-year gang war she had no connection to. Her family chose privacy. No interviews, no public statements. Just a quiet return to their lives, far from Kingsland High Street, far from the postcode wars of North London. The Metropolitan Police emphasized her recovery in their final press statements, not to minimize the horror of what happened, but to offer a sliver of light in an otherwise dark case. 3 gang members survived gunshot wounds. 1 child survived a bullet to the brain. And Javon Riley, the man who orchestrated it all, will spend the next 3 decades in prison. But the violence that put that child in a hospital bed, the feud between the Tottenham Turks and the Hackney Turks, didn't end with Riley's conviction. It continues, quietly, in the shadows of North London's streets. And somewhere in that shadow, a gunman, still free, still armed, still waiting for the next call. The Dalston shooting ended with a life sentence for Riley, but the war that caused it is far from over. The Dalston shooting case isn't just about one night of violence outside a Turkish restaurant. It's a window into the machinery of organised crime in modern London. Javon Riley modelled himself on Omar Little, the strategic stick-up artist from The Wire, a man who prided himself on being 3 steps ahead, who believed his hypervigilance and careful planning made him untouchable. But Riley made a fundamental miscalculation. He planned for CCTV, he planned for witnesses, he planned for forensic evidence, burning the vehicles, disposing of the gun, compartmentalizing his movements across London. What he didn't plan for was the sheer volume of digital surveillance in 2024 London. Traffic cameras, shop CCTV, doorbell cameras, ANPR systems logging every license plate, cell site data mapping phones in real time, bugged cars recording conversations he thought were private. Even fire couldn't erase the digital breadcrumbs. And then there was the bugged car, where Riley, thinking he was alone, casually discussed payments and dead men and individuals connected to the Tottenham Turks. In court, he claimed he was talking to himself, that he was referencing a viral news story about a 10-year-old American rapper's son. The jury didn't buy it. Riley's downfall wasn't a lack of planning, it was overconfidence, the belief that his street smarts could outpace forensic technology, that his silence under arrest would protect him, that he could craft a story around the evidence and walk free. But modern investigations don't work that way anymore. The Metropolitan Police didn't need Riley to talk. They had his movements, his phone, his vehicles, his associates, his conversations. They built the case, piece by digital piece. And when Riley finally took the stand, his explanations collapsed under the weight of contradictions. 2 stories, then 3, each one more implausible than the last. The jury deliberated for just over 6 hours. 34 years minimum. But the case leaves one question unanswered. The gunman who fired those 6 shots, who put a bullet in a child's brain, remains at large. And the 20-year feud between the Tottenham Turks and the Hackney Turks continues in the shadows. Riley's conviction was justice, but it wasn't closure. Because in North London's postcode wars, the cycle never truly ends. The man who actually pulled the trigger got away. For now. The case may be closed for Riley, but the search for the gunman continues. If this deep dive into the Dalston shooting gave you a new perspective on how modern crime investigations actually work, subscribe for more cases like this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.